welcome everyone. In our 2-year history, we wanted to engage. We would do so much better in promoting our humanitarian work to fully engage the young people who loved India, were from India, in the United States. And the biggest thing we could do is listen to them, actually hear what they thought, that life isn't solely about accumulating private wealth, but it's also about promoting public well-being. And so this is our second year doing this essay competition around the country. We're very, very pleased that the Saravanakumar Family Trust for the second year has been our major financial supporter, and we'll be hearing from a representative of the trust to be talking to us and moderating a panel in just a little while. But we're very happy that you joined, whether you are a staff or a board member, volunteer, or financial supporter of one of the 14 India Philanthropy Alliance members, whether you're a friend or a member of Indiaspora, one of our members and our co-host, whether you're family or friends of one of our young honorees and really visionaries, we welcome you, or if you're a member of the media or here in some other capacity. As you may have noticed, I'm not Indian. If that has escaped your view, well, I'll just admit it. But I think one of the things that I'd like you all to understand is that you don't have to be from India and from the subcontinent to love it. Let me ask if one of my colleagues can also kind of mute. Thank you for muting yourselves. We're going to allow people to various people to speak, but it'll help if we can remain mute when we're not speaking. As you may know, if you know anything about me, I spent my 20s mostly studying Bengali culture and language and social entrepreneurship. And for those of you who speak Bengali, you might even enjoy hearing me speak it one day. I still speak it relatively well. And one of the things I took away from South Indian culture is the respect for elders that I just thought was very charming. And yet we're going to turn that around a little bit today, where we're going to hear from our young people, hear from what they think about philanthropy and how philanthropy can benefit India. How it's going to go today is that we're going to hear first from Sanjeev Joshipura, the executive director of Indiaspora, our co-host. Then we're going to briefly talk about our finalists and mention what they wrote about, the 6 finalists from around the country. And then we're going to have 2 fireside chats, one with the runners-up and one with the winners of this year's competition. And we're going to hear then some final words from Raka Mukherjee, one of the youngest and brightest young staff members that we have in any of our IPA members. Looking ahead, I hope that you'll all read all 10 essays that have been published on our website and be inspired by them as I have been. And also think about in your year-end philanthropy supporting IPA members that you know well, or maybe some that you're just getting to know. Indiaspora, one of our 14 members, was going to have a philanthropy summit, its 4th this fall, but decided to postpone that to 2022. But when they decided that, they immediately offered to host this online meeting, so we didn't have to have our young people and the honoring of them to wait. And their Sanjeev's staff are live streaming this, are taking have really pulled out all the stops to make this a wonderful event for these young honorees. So let me just stop here and just welcome and thank Sanjeev Joshipura, who will want to say a few words of welcome before we get to our young people.
Good evening. Thank you, Alex. Good evening, everyone. So delighted to be part of this event. It's an event that we at the IPA and at Diaspora and all our partner organizations as part of the IPA have been waiting for such a long time, as Alex mentioned. I'm just going to say a little bit about Diaspora, who we are, just mention the IPA and the great work that they do briefly, and then just talk quickly about the essay competition before I turn it back over to Alex. So Diaspora is a nonprofit organization founded in 2012 by the investor and entrepreneur in California, M.R. Rangaswamy. And we are a collection of prominent leading Indian diaspora from around the world in different cities and different countries and different professions. And we focus on 3 specific areas. We call them our verticals. One of them is facilitating entrepreneurship and innovation. The other is fostering nonpartisan political and civic engagement. And the third, which is the most germane to today's event, is philanthropy and social impact. And then we also have what we like to call two horizontals that sort of cut across our three verticals. One of them is our Global Connect program, which is about engaging with the Indian diaspora in various countries, not just here in the United States, and also with leaders resident in India. And the second is our Diaspora Next program. Our Diaspora Next program is our initiative to engage with younger people. It's something that we think is a strategic matter of importance at the board level, at the staff level, at the membership level here at Diaspora. Diaspora Next is a program where we engage with and learn from younger professionals between the ages of 21 and 35, who in their own right, just like our members, are very accomplished in their fields. And there's a variety of different fields. It runs across a gamut of them. Let me just talk quickly about the IPA. The India Philanthropy Alliance, which is expertly led by Alex Count and staffed by some wonderful people like Peg and Gabrielle, and then under the guidance of our chairperson, Deepak Raj of Pratham, and vice chairperson, Minu Gupta of FFE, the Foundation for Excellence, and Nishan Pandey of the American India Foundation, is really a coalition of organizations, nonprofit organizations based here in the United States that are focused on doing some outstanding philanthropic work in India. And Alex guides and leads us expertly along with our chairperson and vice chairpersons in terms of setting the agenda of how our groups can collaborate and make the whole larger than the sum of the parts. Now, just turning to the essay competition, I'd like to first of all congratulate the winners today. Their essays, just like they were last year, have been excellent this year. They've been very thought-provoking. And it really is a reminder of the importance to look towards younger people and to include younger voices to solve our most pressing problems of today. I'll turn it back over quickly, like I mentioned, to Alex to hear from the stars of the show. And in closing, I'll just thank my team members, Raka Mukherjee, Mansi Patel, Rucha Gopal, and Pooja Mehta for helping put together this program. Alex, back over to you.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. So we are competition. We went through dozens and dozens of essays from around the country, high quality, and we chose two winners that we'll hear from in a little while, two runners up, and six finalists, three in the middle school category and three in the high school category. And I have photos of these, all of them. I'm a little bit thinking that I won't show them because we seem to have some devilish hacker who's made it our slides unpresentable, though maybe we'll circulate them to you. But let me briefly talk about the six finalists. And again, all of their essays are published as they were last year on our website and have been getting many viewers since we published them a few weeks ago. So first in the middle school category, and this is a fifth grader. I think I recall that she or her parents asked if we considered fifth grade middle school. And I said, if you want to submit an essay and you're in fifth grade, you count, go for it. And Arhan Iyer from Dallas, Texas, wrote about mental health awareness in India's LGBTQ community. Very compelling essay. The author, the judges loved it. And we were so pleased that she took part. Eisha Jain from Bellevue, Washington, in the 8th grade, wrote about education in India, the importance of educating people, especially those in suffering from poverty and marginalization. And she wrote a very passionate essay about that. And then Ria Farsiawar wrote about the consequences of India's inadequate healthcare. And how that holds people back and lets them ensures they don't reach their full potential, and had some ideas about how to address that. So we're really very excited. All three of them girls, and with enormous potential to impact these issues that they care about and many others. Now in the high school category, the finalists were Anirudh Marella from Frisco, Texas, a 10th grader, who wrote about gender violence in India. And very nice to see a young man or boy, or however you want to consider him, writing about this issue and writing about it in such a compelling way. Gibran Rahman from Plymouth, Michigan, a 10th grader there, wrote about, and these are all, they were 10th graders when they wrote these essays last spring, I should say, the great Indian drinking water crisis, and has been, in fact, launching a nonprofit of his own to deal with clean water issues in India. We're so pleased to see Gibran here. And then Eshwar Venkateswamy, and from Athens, Pennsylvania, an 11th grader when he wrote the essay, a 12th grader now, and talking about eliminating dark skin stigma in the Indian community. So these are students who didn't really shy away from some controversial issues, some issues that is even a few years ago would have been challenging for anyone to write about, much less someone in middle school and high school. So maybe again, I was maybe if you all want to kind of post any emojis you want, like let me give you if you're familiar with this, some of you probably much more than me, and this hand clapping, or put something in the chat if you'd like. Just to acknowledge these finalists who we're so proud of, and so proud to put their essays here on our website. And thank you all, 2 finalists who've been here, including your parents, your siblings, and your friends, your classmates. We're so pleased that you're here. Now then we're going to move to hear from our runners-up, and our runners-up we're actually going to be moderated by, and also two students from New Jersey. We're both the runners-up, as it happens, and they're going to be moderated by Maher Adani. Maher, you may remember if you followed this project. Maher was the winner in the high school division in 2020, and he is now a freshman at University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana. He is an intern for the India Philanthropy Alliance. I spend time working with him every week of the since he began a few months ago. And he's going to interview in a kind of a fireside chat format Chinmay Joshi from Basking Ridge, New Jersey, an 8th grader when she wrote it, a 9th grader now, about aid for disabled citizens in rural India, something that she feels very passionate about. And Dia Patel from Woodland Park, New Jersey, an 11th grader then, a 12th grader now. And title of her essay was A Lesson from Shakti the Cow. And she asked the question, how can we equalize opportunities afforded to rural India with those available in urban India? A very profound question. So I want to just turn it over here to Maher, who's going to bring on Dia and Chinmay and our New Jerseyites and have a conversation about their essays. And also, one aspect of this competition is that our runners-up and finalists get to direct grants to the nonprofit of their choice, and they may get into why the organizations they chose and why. So Maher, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Counts. Hi, everyone. My name is Maher. Like Mr. Counts said, I am a freshman at the University of Illinois, and I am here to talk to Dia and Chinmay. First, I'm going to start with Dia. Dia, congratulations again on becoming the runner-up. Your essay about how to advance education in India was, I really liked reading it. And I just wanted to ask, could you share with everyone why philanthropy is important to you and how you became interested in the topic and specifically the themes you wrote about in your essay?
Definitely. So thank you so much. My grandfather has always been really involved in the community back home. He started his own philanthropy projects and youth engagement events in our town and all those kinds of things. So that's what I grew up knowing and grew up appreciating. And so seeing all the positive impact of his work made me want to follow in his footsteps. And as for my essay, on my first trip to India, right in front of our house, there's like a little farm. And when I was little, I would be obsessed with all the cows that were at the farm. And one day our neighbor, she came over with one of the cows, and the cow's name was Shakti. And I, of course, was very, very, very excited about the cows. And my neighbor, she asked me a question. She was like, would you like to learn how to milk a cow? And of course, I said yes. I was very excited. And then she added something to her question. She said that she would teach me, but only if I helped her advance in her English class and finish her English homework. And at that time, I was really confused because the way I grew up with the American education system, there's always so many school resources and teachers available to help you if you ever feel like you're falling behind. But that day I learned that that's not always the case in India, and not for every school or every student in India. And I didn't necessarily realize it then, but that really introduced me to the education crisis in India. And as I did more research, I found out that the issue goes a lot deeper than that. And that's why I felt the need to address this topic in my essay.
That's really great, and that is actually a very interesting way of getting into the topic. And like I said, your essay was so unique in how it addressed it, and I really liked it. Chinmay, I really loved your essay as well. You were concerned about helping improve the quality of life and the lives of the disabled community in India. And I just wanted to ask you, how did you become interested in this issue, and how do you think it can be addressed going forward?
Thank you, Maher. I became interested in this topic because I have disabled relatives in India, specifically a small town in India where my cousin grew up. She has a rare disability, and a lot of the times her neighbors and her friends would mock her for like not being able to walk properly, not being able to speak properly. And I compare that to like a situation here in America when in schools, the children would like get extra help or special needs if they needed it, and like teachers would always be so accommodating. And I realized that not everyone gets those same opportunities as we do here. And I felt really, really like drawn to that, especially because I saw the way she like suffered. And I think that's what led me to write this essay.
That's really touching. Thank you. Both of you, since you were the runner-ups, you got the right to direct $500 grants to the organizations of your choice. So I just wanted to ask you two, what organizations did you choose? And could you tell me a little bit about why you chose those specific organizations?
Sure. So I personally chose the Segal Foundation. In my essay during my research, I found that the education issue was a lot more complicated than what I originally thought. And there are so many different branches of the system that need attention and more resources. So I focused my essay on a three-pronged approach to solve the issue at hand. And one of my prongs, so to speak, was facilities. Learning is really hard to do in an environment that's not conducive to learning. And the Segal Foundation has done a lot of work in that area. For example, their water management system implementation program. They help create cleaner school facilities, adding play equipment to schools, adding different amenities to make school more fun and more appealing. And so they've had a really great impact. And I really thought that giving my grant to them would help them continue to do so.
And Chinmay, what about you? Where did you donate your $500 grant towards?
I chose to donate to UNICEF because I felt like there aren't a lot of organizations that help specifically with disabled needs, especially in underdeveloped countries. So I thought UNICEF was a great way to help a larger community of people to have a global initiative that will not only help the underdeveloped, but will also like play a part in disabled children's lives. Um, as I said, they don't have many organizations to assist them, so I felt UNICEF really like helped a large community of people.
And that's really great. And it's so cool to see that both of you at such a young age are aware of the organizations that are doing such work and where to direct your money and the grant that you got from the essay. I just wanted to ask you guys, what inspired you? What got you interested in participating in the youth essay competition this year in the first place? How did you come across and what made you want to submit an essay this year?
So for me personally, whenever I'm doing any kind of work, I really like listening to podcasts or news or things like that. It just helps me focus. And back in May, I was listening to a podcast and it was talking about the spike in coronavirus cases that India was facing. And I remember being like very saddened by the situation because I do have like family members in India, and they were also telling me about how bad the situation had gotten there. And then on that same podcast, I also heard how members of the IPA were helping in India during these times by raising money. For example, I think it was like oxygen tanks and other kinds of relief efforts. And so I was really inspired by the work that the IPA was doing, and I wanted to learn more about them. So I went to the IPA's website, and that's when I saw this essay contest, and I really wanted to participate because I saw it as a great opportunity to get involved in the positive impacts and the impactful discourse also that the IPA is fostering.
What about you, Chinmay?
That's really funny, Dia, because I came across the IPA similarly in a news article about the IPA's assistance to COVID relief in India. And I found that really inspiring and how they were making a difference even though times were tough. And so I, like Dia, checked their website and saw the essay competition, and it gave me an opportunity to speak about a topic that I was already passionate about and to bring awareness to disabilities in rural India, which not many people are aware of.
That's really great. Finally, I just wanted to ask you two, how do you, after winning the contest, after becoming the runner-ups, after having your essays placed and experiencing the firsthand, like the work of these organizations and being here tonight, in the future, how do you intend to become involved further in philanthropy?
So for me, in the future, I really want to start my own philanthropy projects. I know I mentioned one in my essay about changing the focus of Indian schools and allowing more career development in school. So that's definitely a project that I do want to take further. And I also want to take like all the ideas that I've been having on paper and bring them to life. I think volunteering my time would be very important, but also volunteering ideas. I would love to get on board with philanthropy groups and help brainstorm ideas, just like I did for this essay competition, and make a meaningful contribution that way, because every action that creates a meaningful impact always starts with an idea. And right now, I think that as a member of the next generation of philanthropists in America, I think I have like a possibly unique perspective that can help really change the level of impact that philanthropy makes on society.
And what about you, Chinmay?
Sorry. I also plan to be involved in philanthropy by volunteering as well as fundraising. I currently have started my own nonprofit, and we sell cards and give to disability groups in the United States. I hope to be able to expand that and reach a more global audience.
And there you have it. I just want to thank Dia and Chinmay for being here tonight, for talking to me. Um, and I really liked your guys' answers. I really liked reading your guys' essays, and I wish you luck for all your endeavors in the future. I don't think we can, if everyone turn on their mic to be a little chaotic, but I'm going to clap for you guys. Everyone give it up for them. And back to you, Mr. Counts. Thank you.
Very, very well done. Thanks to both of you. And we're very pleased that for the second year in a row, Suri and Etta Segal have matched the donations, Dia, that you would have directed towards their organization, the Segal Foundation in the Midwest. I'm noting that we recently had an election in New Jersey and some controversy, a very close election. I hope we're not too far away from being able to watch an election where one of you are running for governor of New Jersey. And so maybe it's a couple of years in the future. We are last year, actually, when we looked at our runners up and finalists, the 4 top essays, 3 of the 4 were boys, and they were all from the Midwest and the South. This year, they're all girls. They're from the West and East Coasts. And then we think of next year, where are they going to be from? We don't know. And we hope that we continue to get participation from around the country. I've gotten some coaching about how I can share my screen briefly before we go to the final panel and not get hacked. Let's see if I can make this work. And if I can't, well then, just say, here we go. I think I've done it now. So I'm going to quickly go through these. You can see the pictures of the before. So these are our organizations. The 14 members will be announcing a 15th member very shortly. Great organizations, each of them. Probably many of you support one or more of them, and we find that they complement each other on the ground in India and also in our constituency building work here. You heard from Sanjeev earlier, and these are the photos of the finalists that we talked about. And I see several of them here: Arhan, Eisha, Ria, and Anirudh, Gibran, and Eshwar. And so great looking young people with great ideas, and who have really graced us with their thinking and their energy and where they want to take philanthropy. Now we've just heard from Chinmay, there she is, and Dia, and we're so pleased. And check out these essays, share them on social media if you're so inclined, and perhaps even support the organizations that they've chosen in some small way. Okay, now we're going to hear from the winners, and it's going to be moderated by someone I've gotten to know in the past few years, Mona Shah, who represents the donor to this, the main donor to this. We're a member dues-driven organization, but we do sometimes get special grants, and the Saravanakumar Family Trust in Orange County has been our supporter for this youth competition for the first both years. Mona Shah is an advocacy and policy consultant. She works with nonprofit organizations, philanthropies, government agencies, and she's an extensive background in health, gender, social issues. She served as the director of Health Funders Partnership of Orange County, and previously worked as a proud Marylander. She worked for one of my favorite senators, Barbara Mikulski, as staff director, senior health policy advisor, and was a staff director of the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Children and Families, where she drafted several sections of the Affordable Care Act. So you might be the direct beneficiary of her handiwork with your health care. She's on many boards, advisory boards, and she's a Terp like me, where I teach part-time, and she's also has a master's in public health from Emory University. Also, Mona is just one of the smartest and nicest people you'll ever meet in philanthropy, or certainly that I've ever met. She's going to be introducing Aisha Yadav from Redwood City, California, who and Rithani, Saravanakumar, and they're going to be talking about the wonderful essays they wrote. They've both been featured in news articles since this came out, and we just look forward to getting to know both of you better with our wonderful facilitator, who's the one who actually suggested this fireside chat format that worked so well last year and is working well this year, obviously. Mona, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Alex. And again, just congratulations to all the winners, the runners-up, the finalists. It's a pleasure for our family to be able to support this. We really do believe in kind of starting young with giving back, and especially, I'm Indian American. I was born and raised here, but now have really young children of my own. And so how do we continue to get the generations feel connected to India? And so this is a great way. And just echoing what everyone else said, the caliber of essays was amazing. So kudos to everyone. And I'm really excited to be able to chat with Eisha and Rithani this evening. Both of them had really interesting topics. I'm going to start with Eisha. And I love the title, Let Age Wrinkle the Skin, Not the Spirit. And she spoke about some of the cultural shifts going on with the aging population in India, and how we might be able to have some solutions to that. One of the things I loved, I had the opportunity to speak to both of these young ladies yesterday and get to know them a little bit better personally. And they both, being teenagers and preteens, said, one of our things outside of school is that we genuinely love spending time with our family. And they actually said that as a hobby, that they really do just love the family time. And I think that's, one of the strengths of Indian culture. And so it's interesting to see, how this nuclear family and kind of extended multi-generational family structure is changing. So Eisha, I would love to hear about why you chose this topic, and share with us a little bit more about your grandfather, because from the essay you talk about him as being part of your inspiration.
Yeah, so I have most of my extended family in India, and my grandfather also lived there. And he was on the older side, and he had difficulty doing stuff like going on a run or riding a bike. And a lot of our family, and he was also very fiercely independent. Like, he wanted to do stuff by himself, and he loved his hometown. So he didn't want to leave or come to the US or move around. He really loved his hometown. And we were looking for some activities so he had something to do. And when we were looking, there was like nothing. And either there was like children's books or books for people who have really good eyesight. And neither of those categories fit him. And also, it was really difficult for him to go see his friends or other people because you have to figure out transportation, a way to get there. And it was just really hard for someone of that age. And we really wanted him to be happy, and his happiness like was equal to our happiness, you know? And when he was lonely, we were all feeling sad, and this just affected everyone's mental health, especially his, because he had no one to talk to or nothing to do, and that's like every single day, and that's crazy.
That's definitely a great story. So thank you for sharing what was a difficult situation, but also using that as motivation to do something and to make things better. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and go to Rithani, who chose a very complex issue. She talked about the changing agricultural industry in India and kind of the small family farmers, and kind of the industrial aspect and of revolutionizing that whole industry. And it's something, there were protests that happened earlier this year. It made international headlines. There was actually, I was surprised at the amount of coverage that the farmers received in the US. So Rithani, I'd love to just have you start off by explaining to all of us who aren't as well versed on this very complicated issue, kind of what happened, why were we reading about these protests, what is it that the government did, and why are the farmers against it, and kind of explain both sides of the issue.
Yeah, so essentially what started out in India is the agricultural market in India was actually regulated, which means that farmers were guaranteed a fixed price for the crops that they sold. And then last year, recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi issued 3 new reforms. And instead of having a regulated market, he actually made it unregulated. So farmers, instead of having a fixed market price for their crops, they essentially, their income was dependent on where they sold their crops to and how much they sold it for. So they were not guaranteed a fixed price at all, which means some days they might have sold a large amount of crops, and other days they might not have sold even like a single amount of crops. So that really made a severe impact, had a severe impact on these farmers. And so the only option they had was to protest, because the government was not listening to them. The government didn't really care what was happening to these small scale farmers. And so in the end, they had to resort to public protests. And that is what happened in Delhi last year. They had a sit-in where they blocked public roads, and they actually did not eat for many days. And this, like you said, made international headlines and was a really big issue, even not just within the nation, but across the world.
Well, thank you for breaking that down in a way that everyone can understand. I really appreciate it. And so tell us a little bit more about the solutions that you did propose in your winning essay. Again, trying to help these small farmers who this is maybe all they've known for many generations. And it really is a core of their own livelihood and sustainability, but also, access to food across the entire country.
Yeah, so one solution, or one plausible solution is agri infrastructure. And so, agri infrastructure, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, is the implementation of reliable infrastructure for producing and transporting and storing agricultural product. And so it's very important that farmers are able to make profit from the crops and food that they grow. And so what agri infrastructure does, it allows for safe and reliable transportation and storage of this of the crops that they harvest. And so this ensures that farmers are able to sell their crops at any time. What has happened is before, due to the lack of this necessary infrastructure, farmers immediately had to sell their crops right after they harvested it. And now with this implementation of agri infrastructure, it allows them to store their crops for longer periods of time until they can find a better person to sell their crops to. And this gives better rates for farmers. And another important aspect of this agri infrastructure solution is that it also educates and retrains farmers that have been dispossessed from their land. And this is actually a really important topic because there is this transition from small scale farming to this corporatization model of agriculture. And so what has happened is these businesses have actually been seizing land from farmers for their own personal gain. And so that dispossesses farmers from their land. And so retraining and re-educating these farmers and opening up more job opportunities is really helpful for those farmers in India, and it decreases unemployment rates. And another thing is we here in the US are living in a very technologically advanced nation. And that is something that maybe a couple people have been taken for granted, but it is something that we should be really thankful for. And we really understand this value of automation and infrastructure because that is what we are surrounded by all the time. And so what I proposed is having these teams of engineers and architects in the US to develop these infrastructure models that they can then be implemented in different regions in India, starting with like small farming land and then working our way up to larger farming land.
Well, that's really fascinating. And I'm sure none of us here knew that much in detail kind of about the industry and kind of some of the solutions that I think would be really helpful to keep some of these smaller family farms intact. It's interesting. I feel like the US could potentially benefit from that too, because as you said, everything is industrialized. There's a lot of GMO out here, and at the same time everyone wants to be healthier and eat organic, and so there is this shift between kind of family owned versus big business. So thank you for being so thoughtful and so thorough with your response. Aisha, switching it over back to you. One of the things that really stood out to me is you talked about in India how there are all these investments for young children, and there's daycares and youth activities. And again, I have really small children who are in that sweet spot. I'm here tonight because I was able to have some help with childcare. And so tell us a little bit more about how there could be similar models. You mentioned this in your essay for older people, and why you think it's important to invest in the elderly in India the same way that the country invests in its really babies.
Yeah, I think that when you grow older, just like when you're a baby, it's harder to do stuff, but you have a different intellectual capacity than a baby. So you can't really put them in daycare, but it's like a very similar concept. So I was thinking of there's like three important things. It's the access to the location, it's the activities, and it's like the social amount of it. So I feel like it needs to be easily accessible, it needs to be local. There needs to be a bus or some place, some easy way to get to it for the elderly. And it needs to be safe. Like the elderly person needs to feel comfortable there. And I feel like for the elderly, it needs to have activities that suit their needs. And some specific examples of this, my grandfather really loved yoga. So maybe like a yoga class or breathing exercises, or maybe even him leading a yoga class because he loved to teach my mom some basic breathing exercises. So he feels useful and he feels like he has a purpose in that section. And also some social interaction, like groups of elderly get to meet and talk easily. And this will like make them look forward to something like, oh, I get to see my friend this Friday or something. And it's like something that they look forward and feel safe doing.
Okay, wonderful. So, last question to both of you, and I was going to ask you why you chose the organizations that you did to donate your money, and you can touch upon that, but just to switch it up a little bit from the runners up, one of the things we spoke about earlier is kind of what you both appreciate about Indian culture. And so I'd love for you to share with everyone here, why you're proud to be Indian and Indian American, because again, part of, IPA and Indiaspora is really continuing on with the Indian culture for generations to come.
Yeah, so I would say there are two words that I would use to answer this question. One would be relationships, and the other one would be diversity. So if you just think about in India, there's like heavy emphasis, there's large emphasis on relationships and bonding and family. And there's always this tight-knit community that's formed between just everyone. Even if you have like a neighbor or a friend, you refer to them as a brother or a mother or a sister. Everyone is related to everyone else in some way. And I'm really proud to be part of a culture that values that family and that bonding. And we actually practice that here with my family too. We spend a whole bunch of time together. That is something that our family really values. And then the second thing is diversity. There's a lot of diversity in India. If you think about the different regions, there's diversity in food, language, religion, culture, attire. There's diversity everywhere. And the other thing that I really admire about India is that there's always this mix. It's not like, even though there's a difference between Southern Indian culture and Northern Indian culture, they haven't like stuck to their boundaries. There is always a mix of these cultures and appreciation for this diversity that I really like in India.
Thank you. And we are all proud that you and Eisha are part of the Indian American community. Eisha, same question to you.
Yeah, I have a similar answer to Rithani, and I really value India's diversity and its richness of its culture. And I feel very lucky to see all of the culture that India has. Like when I see my aunts and uncles and cousins, I see like all of the wonderful and cool traditions that they do, like dancing or art, and it's just so awesome. And cooking, like in my family, food is super important. And we have like had so many different Indian dishes and it never gets old. I'm like, oh, this looks like something new. And it's still another Indian dish. And there's like so much difference in the places. Like when I visit my grandpa or when I visit my aunt and uncle, I'm like getting a different experience every time. And I also really like the tradition that India has like passed on from generation to generation. Like there's some festivals, let's say like Diwali, that like it's been celebrated everywhere, and it's such a nice way of bringing Indian culture all over the world.
Oh, well, I completely agree. And, we could probably chat for, hours more because both of you have so much to share. And it's truly been an honor and a privilege, and congratulations again. And I will turn it back to Alex.
Great. Thank you, Mona, for bringing in these the culture elements here. Very important, and the pride in Indian and South Asian culture. I should mention that both that Rithani directed her grant to Pratham and its U.S. affiliate Pratham USA, and Eisha to Help Age India, an organization that, unlike Pratham, is not a member of IPA, but maybe will become one. Now, for me, I'll just say before I turn it over, just want to make some final comments. When I was in high school, the chances that I could actually pronounce the term Agri Infrastructure is pretty low. In fact, I'm still struggling with it now in my 50s. but much less being able to explain it in such a compelling way. So you guys are just applying your abundant kind of mental skills and intelligence to solving problems in the country of your ancestors and doing it in such a sophisticated way. I'm super impressed. At this point in a session, whether it was in American culture, Indian culture, you'd normally have an elder statesman provide some final comments about what this all means and kind of to bring it home. And we're gonna switch it up. We're actually gonna have one of our youngest and brightest staff members of an IPA member, Raka Mukherjee, who will say a few words. Some of you may be thinking, if you know, again, my love of Bengali culture and people, that it was my choice to bring in a Bengali to say the final words, a young Bengali, Indian American. But it was not my choice. It was Sanjeev's choice. I had nothing to do with it. But I'm so pleased that Raka is here. She's a operations and communications coordinator for Indiaspora, involved in their Diaspora Next program. She's a linguist, multiculturalist, lover of the arts, and majored in French, among other things, and is just a wonderful person, has worked very hard for this event and all the great programming that Indiaspora does. So Raka, over to you to just make some final comments, and then I'll just close us down with a couple of announcements. Raka?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much, Alex, for that wonderful introduction. Again, my name is Raka Mukherjee. I am Indian American, Bengali, as Alex pointed out. So my parents and my family are from West Bengal, and I grew up here in America, in California. It was so wonderful to be able to hear from other Indian diaspora young people who are so engaged with their culture and are wanting, growing up in America and still wanting to be heavily involved in what goes on in India and so knowledgeable about it. It was really inspiring for me as well to hear from these very bright students about their passions and interests in India. Just really quickly, as Sanjeev had mentioned earlier, and Alex as well, Indiaspora is currently launching a new initiative called Diaspora Next, which focuses also on younger people, not necessarily at the student age as our wonderful speakers are here today, but a young professional initiative for people who are just starting out in their careers, who are in their 20s or 30s, who are new to their fields or currently starting to make strides in their careers and are doing some very inspiring things as well. So we're very excited to be kicking off that. But back to today's program, I, again, really love to hear such important topics from the lens of younger Indian Americans who spoke so impressively and eloquently about their topics. I don't know if I would have been able to, as a middle school student, express myself quite so well. So I was very impressed with that. I just wanted to touch upon what each speaker talked about a little bit. These are all topics that, maybe aren't so much talked about by younger people here in America and aren't really seen as relevant to our lives, but they are for us in the diaspora, I feel very relevant for if we're thinking about our heritage and our culture and where we come from. What happens in India, to me, and I think to so many of these speakers, is still very important to our personal lives as well. Especially since so many of us still have family in India. And I noticed across the board, all of the speakers did mention, some of their inspiration coming from their families in India when they went to visit them and the things that they noticed. And I could definitely relate to that as somebody who has family in India, but grew up here in America. When we visit India and we meet with our grandparents or our cousins and friends, we inevitably will notice the differences in our upbringings and our situations. And, I think it's an experience that a lot of diaspora can relate very closely to. And from a young age, a lot of us are very aware of the societal and social and cultural differences between America and India, and some of the privilege that some of us have had growing up that people even very closely related to us may not have grown up with. So I really enjoyed hearing that perspective from our speakers today on topics such as education, disability rights, elders' well-being, and all of these very important topics that maybe aren't talked about enough, but I'm really glad to see that younger people are in fact doing their research, caring about these topics, wanting to give back to organizations who do amazing work, who are IPA organizations and others, and many of whom are friends of Indiaspora. I just overall really enjoyed the program. Thank you to all the speakers who came and gave their perspectives, and congratulations for winning in this competition and being able to donate to the charity of your choice. And yeah, thank you to everybody who came and spoke. I wanted to shout out Rithani again for her amazing explanation of her topic. I think we all learned something, even if we feel that we were well-versed in this topic. I know I did learn a thing or two from her, and it's always great to be able to learn from younger students who are obviously so capable of understanding the big topics that are going on in the world and teaching us about them as well. So I just wanted to leave off with that and turn it back over to Alex.
All right. I knew I could count on a young Bengali to wrap this up in an entirely appropriate way. I want to thank you all for coming, each and every one of you, for giving some kind of moral support to our honorees today. I want to especially thank the students for participating in this. And we had many students who weren't finalists or runners up, but wrote great essays or doing great work in their communities related to India in most cases. I want to thank my team, Peg Foray and Maher Adani, and also the folks at Indiaspora, and especially thanks Mansi for helping me figure out how to avoid the hackers who are having some fun with us early in the program. I would encourage all of you to read these essays, share them with people, inspire other young people with what these folks or these 10 students are doing. Support organizations doing good work as we head into the end of year giving season. With your time, your talent, your treasure, whether they're IPA members, whether they're grantees chosen by these students or others. We welcome your ideas about what 14 of the leading Indian focused charities in the US can do together, how we can engage youth. We don't have all the answers, but we're looking for ideas from our people in our network. We hope also you'll spread the word once we're in a position to announce it. The third annual youth essay competition that we hope to be running, announcing maybe in January or February. And we are just, again, pleased, beyond pleased that you came here, that Indiaspora was our co-sponsor, and that Sarvamangal Family Trust sponsored this. So I guess there's no real risk at this point. If you all want to unmute yourselves and give one final round of applause to the students, or put something in the chat, and then we'll close down. But again, thank you. Thanks to the students, and thanks to all of you.